evening, everybody. Welcome to the meeting of Oakham Town Council. First thing I'd like to say this evening is I today received an email from Councillor Paul Mills resigning from the council. So we'll be expecting him this evening. We'll take any apologies. I think there's only one from Vince Howard. Good working with us. Can I propose to accept Councillor Howard's all those in favour? Thank you very much. Are there any declarations of interest tonight? I'd like to see if you have a disclosure of human interest on any item which is on the agenda. Yes,
yeah, I've on the 12 grant applications, I've declared an other on one and the CUNA are in on 2 and 3. I'll put them in a book and I'll inform the clerk.
Oh, I haven't signed anything.
Okay.
I've got an interest on the first grant application.
Okay.
I know a lot of fishermen.
Okay, have you
I haven't even done the other book,
is the register going live? Okay, minutes for the meeting of the council on Wednesday the 28th of October. Before you. Any points there? I would propose to accept the minutes. Second. All those in favour of accepting the minutes?
Yes.
Unanimous. Right. Very quick to us.
I'll get there in a minute.
Done a minute now, what time is it?
You sign it.
Just a minute.
This book.
I haven't signed it.
Thank you. I have some councillors' questions tonight. They're the same ones that we submitted from Councillor Brooks at the last meeting. At that time, we were obtaining advice from the National Association of Local Councils legal section, and we're still waiting for that advice, so I'm unable to answer it at the moment. Okay. Members' reports. Councillor Lucas, you have a report here.
Oh, sorry. Yes. I'm catching up gradually, Joe.
Okay.
Mr. Gregg and his right-hand man Bob, and Bob Lucas and I, as tree wardens, emptied the bird boxes today. Number 1 bird box, well, it's not a bird box, it's a bat box. We did not clean because of hibernation during the winter. Number 2, robin box not used. Number 3, the nest was removed together with 3 carcasses. So that's quite handy to know that it's been used. It's usually 4 or 5 eggs, so I can only assume 2 of them are placed. And the number 4 box was used by a wren because it was identified by 1 remaining egg. May I respectfully request that a further 2 bird boxes are erected in time for the coming season, and 2 at Royce's recreation ground. There we are, Richard, because that needs to go in the green flag if it's not too late.
Is that your proposal for an item on a future agenda?
Oh yes, absolutely.
Okay.
No, I'm just preempting.
Can I have your permission to speak just very briefly on the Catalyst College presentation?
Sure, yeah.
Because I apologise that I didn't give 72 hours notice, but myself and other members obviously attended a very good evening at Catalyst College, and I just thought it would be nice to put it on record to sort of acknowledge how well the students do in our town. It was very impressive to see the results or hear the results, and it was a very enjoyable evening.
Thank you. Yes, I can concur with that. Anybody else report? Okay, it's just my report then as Mayor. On the 29th of October, I attended Livingston Fine Arts Exhibition. On the 5th of November, Councillor Brooks, I attended Catalyst College Pride Viewing, and you agree that it was a good evening, and it just shows the standard of education being taught at the campus. Last Sunday, the 8th of November, I attended the Remembrance Service at All Saints Church. It's, as far as I was concerned, a number of years I've been going, and I think it's the best attended service I've seen for some time, both in the parade and also in the church. So they're putting extra seats and pews along, which must be somewhere in the region of 500, I would have thought, in church. And then today, I attended 2 minutes silence, which was held on the High Street at 11 o'clock. Just a notice about a future event which I'd like to bring to your attention. Thursday, the 17th of December, will be the town carol service at All Saints Church. Recollection, I think that's 7:30 start, but I'll be giving further information close to the date. Thank you very much. Clerk's report.
Chairman, so the first thing on the report you've all got out in front of you is about the local plan review. I emailed everybody out a copy of this. I'm not going to read through the whole thing again, so there we are, just to sort of give you a little bit of a heads up that given the closing date submissions or comments is Tuesday the 12th. This will obviously have to be considered by the council on the 9th of December. Skate Park, now obviously we're aware that further remedial work is being undertaken there. I've actually heard from the suppliers today they should be back on site, weather permitting, on Friday, so to finish the work off. So hopefully that will see that finished and the fencing removed. Just a reminder about the election in Oakham North West. Those of you who may live in the ward, that's obviously Thursday the 19th. Podcasts have gone out. I've seen my parents live in the ward and they've received them. Polling stations to Scout Hut. Notice of the poll has been published today. That's in the notice board. It's also on our website. So that's all the information about that one. And then finally, just a reminder about the neighbourhood plan information days that will be taking place in here on this Saturday and Saturday the 21st. Michael's dropped in some of the leaflets that have been printed, everything else, so please come along and any support to that, I think.
Thank you. Can I remind members that if they wish to attend the count on the 19th of November, they have to apply to Rutland County Council Democratic Services to do so. So you need to apply to them and fill a form in to be able to be admitted to the count.
Oh, right. Yes, thank you.
Okay, just a reminder. Right. Deputations by members of the public. Do we have any deputations to do? No? Thank you very much. Okay, review of standing orders. You have before you, we've had quite a lengthy process of reviewing standing orders over a number of months. You have in front of you now the major change or the changes to the standing orders which have been itemised. I'm hoping that we'll be able to take these in one go, but if there's any queries about any of the standing orders or any of the what has happened and why it's happened, then perhaps we can discuss that now. If there's any problems, anybody has any considerations or any concerns about them? Michael?
Yeah, just one, the 6-month rule. Can they explain the rationale for dropping that?
Sure, yeah. Rationale is that it's not required. It's not contained in any of the National Association of Local Councils templates for this. Sorry? Not consideration?
No.
This one? That's right. Oh, yeah.
The 6-month rule is contained in the now standing orders. However, you know, the group have looked at it, and it seems the general consensus in taking also that some members have got some concerns over it, and it's confusing for perhaps you as members and also for members of the public as to why virtually every single meeting the council is having to suspend a standing order. So, I mean, obviously item 10 we're having to do it again for the working groups, and it just, I think the group just felt that it was virtually redundant. Now, as the report says, it's not a carte blanche for the council to continually revisit its decisions. You know, if somebody puts a proposal forward and perhaps that proposal is defeated, and they come back to the council, you know, with the same thing the following month in the hope that it's going to, you know, change, that's not going to happen. If information changes or circumstances change, then fair enough. But it's confusing, and at the moment, I think the group felt that it is almost being abused, really. So, just by taking it out to appoint members to work, or have it in to appoint members to working groups, etc., seems to be a redundancy. So,
Thank you.
but it is in the now court.
I stand correct. Councillor Brooks.
Mark a couple of points. In item 1G, in accordance with the standing orders, a question asked by a member of the public during crossed out their deputation that the meeting shall not require a response or debate. I accept that's a possibility, but I question why we constantly are refusing to answer questions from a member of the public in this day of openness and transparency. And I was just wondering if the group could look into duplicating what Oakham Town Council does, where people give notice, because obviously questions have to be researched, but this constant we will not answer, we will not debate is putting a negative effect upon members of the public in the past who have come, whereas if they come and give a deputation and they're told, very sorry, you haven't given time, but you can come back next meeting with a question, I think that's a much more positive approach to the council, how it's perceived.
Can we ask that one first before you answer? If you want to...
Yeah, I've got a couple. There's
Okay, can
not,
you
there's
answer
not
that
many.
one first?
Yeah.
I was only to say my memories from when we were going through all this was that the chairman on the evening still has the opportunity to allow the question, so that it isn't quite a barrier that may be closed. It's not a complete barrier,
No.
But correct me if I'm wrong.
The wording suggests it's a barrier.
Okay, but this is down to Chairman to decide.
Okay. Right. Then it comes to councillors' questions. I won't read the whole thing now because I think members of the public have got it already. 9A. My concern is, yes, I would admit quite openly back in 2010 I was a bit of a pain in the backside and I asked 10, 20 questions at a time. But I think restricting it at the current time is not helpful, because if you are asking why did the council do this and what are we going to do to rectify it, that's classed as two questions, even if you put it in one, from my experience. So a restriction on the number of questions, I think it should come down to the chairman and the clerks with other matters here. If they feel that somebody is being a bit of a pain or malicious or doesn't have a proper question, then they should be told outside the meeting that it's not the case. I think the restriction is unhelpful because it doesn't, sorry to...
Okay, can I answer that one?
Yeah.
Excuse me. The main reason is we think that if a councillor does have a question, that should be dealt with without going as a public debate. I mean, you can get the answer you want by talking to me, or perhaps not the answer you want, you can get an answer anyway from me. The point is that it is tended to be used at the moment purely as a method of sort of public recognition, I suppose, more than anything else. And it is really, there is no requirement to have any questions at all. There's no requirement anywhere to have any questions.
Chair, can I just add to that?
Yeah, go on.
That's according to NAP recommendation.
Yeah, it is, yes. Yeah. So really, if you've got, if a member has got a problem, they should really take it up with the chairman first,
Well,
rather than just enter into
we
it.
won't discuss the issue of that.
Yeah, but I'm just saying why we've done that. I mean, we could have taken that down to no questions, and just deleted the whole lot.
But it's a backward way, I think, of going
Okay, but it's a backstop, let's put it that way. I don't think it's a backward way, but it's a backstop.
Things are improving communication on the council,
Good.
although some are told not to talk to me today.
Okay, your next point?
I didn't think that 9B should be added. It just doesn't seem irrelevant. It's because questions are listed, but it has to be on the council business. So I don't think that has to go in. I think that's a personal opinion of somebody. But that's all I'll say on that one.
Well, I mean, it's just a reiteration that questions should relate to council business, not to personal relations between two members. That's what it means. So you shouldn't be raising personal
But I think
problems
that's-
between two members.
I think that's already understood in the terms of councillors' questions,
It won't hurt them if it's in the standing order.
but it already is.
No,
When it
put it
says
in.
councillors' questions on councillors' business.
Yeah, it's how you define council business, isn't it? Okay.
Sorry. Then it's 17D, the deletion. I believe that this is quite standard through any organisation, and I can't understand why you want to delete it. It's a safeguard for members. You can't do it as an individual, but you're taking away something which in any organisation that has committees, chairmen and that has a right to do, and I think that's a dangerous move. Maybe the wrong word to use, but I don't think it's appropriate to delete that, because, not make it personal, but if we had a chairman that everybody didn't like and he refused to take, or she refused to take a meeting, to hold a vote of no confidence or something like that, or well, we're stuck with them, and I don't see that that's the correct way.
Members of the group help with this, wasn't this the duplicate?
I think it was.
It doesn't say that here.
No, I think this was duplicated, wasn't it?
That's my
But I don't have my notes with me, so I can't think. But I'll check on that one. I'll check on that.
Okay, thank you.
We finished with it.
No, I've got, but I've forgotten what I was, yes, because I couldn't understand why you were deleting the point where a councillor has a right in a way
What number, please?
sorry, Joyce, number 21. Because a councillor, if it's to do with their work, has a right to inspect any document, and for you to delete that right, I thought was inappropriate.
It's not deletion of the right, it's as you said before, you know, it's a standing thing. All councils have the ability to have certain information. We've already discussed in the previous meeting about confidential information. We have a right to see information which is not confidential. And that's written in. It does not admit standards.
And possibly doesn't, but there's a lot of things that need changing in outstanding orders. It's been meddled with for too many times. 24E, I believe that shouldn't be inserted, because this would come under terms and conditions of employees, not council. I don't understand why council employees' terms and conditions are now coming into councillors' code of conduct or standing orders.
Standing orders refer to employees as well as members.
But not for specifics like that, which would be terms and conditions of employment.
No. I can't say that relates to employees and independent stations. Okay.
Fine, but that's just my opinion.
Okay, any more?
Then there's the big one on 32C. We're told that change is needed to avoid the situation that we had when I first earlier this year. I don't understand that, because to have a staffing committee, you have to sort of follow the statutory timescales. So my view of this is that we shouldn't be giving powers of spending up to £5,000 to the staffing committee. It should come to full council, because we've been told there is no such thing as an emergency. And in most employment situations, if there was something to be needed, 3 days, I think it is, forgive me if I'm wrong, is what it takes to call a council meeting. And I'm a bit concerned that the staffing committee, without making it personal, who may have caused the situation, would then have the powers to try and sort it without consulting the full council.
Well, this is a continuation of trying to delegate down to committees. If you, on that basis, then you say it's 3 weeks to
3 days.
3 days even. 3 days to call a council meeting, then there's another 3 days to call a staffing committee meeting. So, I mean, the point is, it delegates down to the staffing committee in an emergency. You can't say there's no emergencies, because this would be an emergency if you didn't have a risk of down far through, you cannot sick on one sickness. So that's it, it's delegating down, and you'll find when we're looking at the restructure of the council, terms of reference will be delegating down authority to committees. It's just a start of it.
Right.
Okay.
Then when you're talking about emergencies, I was a member of the public when the powers were given. I'm talking about item number 33, which now wants to be delegated to the assistant clerk, deputy, whatever it's called. Urgent back then was when a tree fell down in Station Road. That is urgent, but urgent seems to have such an open-ended thing at the moment with the council, and we seem to have all these problems which things get spent, oh, it was urgent, and so much business is being conducted on the basis that it's urgent, and I get very frustrated on that, because we need to define what is urgent and what is not urgent. We paid to go on training, and we were told very clearly and that there is no such thing as an emergency with a council on expenditure. It, unfortunately, he said, it's the way it is. It's red tape. Everything has to go to full council. But then, obviously, you can give, as you did back, not you personally, but back, I think it was about 2 years ago, delegated powers to the clerk to go out because he's not physically spending money and the road needs to be open. That is urgent. So I have no problem with that. He doesn't even have to call anyone at the time. You've got to get that tree and make it safe. But there is too many other things which have been described as urgent that I think we need to clarify the word urgent a bit more than that we do.
From what you're saying, I think you're saying on item 30, on paragraph 33.
Yeah.
What that is a delegation to an appointed deputy as well, isn't it?
Yeah. Which I don't object to, because it's the
But
word urgent that I have a problem with,
Okay,
because it's too open-ended, and that's from experience of what we've seen.
The only alteration on that standing order is to the word to council and. So if the clerk takes action under the standing order, it's to be notified immediately to councils and the appropriate committee. So that's the only change in that standing order. We've not changed the standing order as such.
But we haven't been notified in the past. I won't go into the details,
No,
but we've discussed one of the issues earlier, and we're not being notified.
This point is purely about adding the words to councils and.
I know, but it's at the same time we're
You're making a point of that. You're making a
yeah,
point about that.
which it could be if people agree.
Yeah.
It could be amended.
But that is something which you need to discuss. It's not something you could bring up at this point.
It's there for amendment.
It's there, but to agree the amendment, if you want to change the authorisation of something to the clerk, that's a major decision, and I would suggest it not come within the bounds of the.
But I'm sorry, I keep hearing that we are discussing that, but nothing's coming to council. We're coming to an end of a year.
Well, I don't know which ones you mean now, but I mean, we're discussing other than what is on the agenda for tonight now.
Well, I thought we could make amendments. That's what I normally see in organisations, when you put a whole paragraph. I thought the idea was we were asking for opinions and possibly to make amendments, but
Well, not to make wholesale amendment like that, no. No, I mean, if you want to put forward a proposal to amend something, then we'll take it to a future meeting.
I could do that now,
Okay.
but I won't, because I think I want it done properly.
Well, that's what I was trying to say to you. It's not something to discuss now, it's something to be discussed in a future meeting. When you've had time to consider what the amendment is and how it relates to everything else. Because when you start making amendments to standing orders, it has a knock-on effect. It affects others. It also affects financial regulations. So you've got to look at it in the whole rather than at it's on the hoof.
I have one last one. It's the 36B. I'm very unhappy with this. Not the fact that I would welcome being part of the new open and transparent Oakham Town Council. I welcome having Rutland County councillors here being able to take part in the meeting. But we're talking about other committees and meetings. But we're still at a situation where Oakham Town councillors who are not on those committees are welcome. And I think that's wrong. If we're going to start inviting Rutland County councillors to come and speak for their wards, then I think it should say Oakham Town councillors. But you're saying to me that we can't amend things.
No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is what you're reading out is in isolation. Town council is going to attend any committee.
As a member of the public, that's
Yes,
fine.
and they can be invited to speak. I think we'll be invited to say this. So there's no difference in that. That's just extending to county council to have representation of Oakham wards.
But they're not being invited here, they're being told they can come along.
Well,
No disrespect to Rutland County councillors, but we couldn't just be expected to turn up and have this privilege at Rutland County Council.
Perhaps we'll take note of what we do.
I don't know. Well, I'm not going to argue with you, I'm just making the point that I feel that we're at a situation where our councillors have to come to committees as members of the public and give public declarations, and you're saying that a councillor, I shouldn't look that way, but a Rutland County councillor is quite welcome to come and sit here and make representations, put their views and anything basically. And I just think that's not really fair to
That's up to the chairman of the council or committee at the time.
But it doesn't say that. It just says they can. And that's what I'm speaking
Shall
on.
be given the opportunity to provide, to give a representation and views on agenda items.
But then with the town councillors, you're saying they're invited, have to be invited. That's why I find it wrong.
We're playing on words now. If I'm a chairman of a committee and we had a town councillor came and wanted to speak, I would invite that town councillor to speak on it. I can't say that for everybody, but that's surely the correct way to do it.
The frustrating thing is you say I'm just playing with words, but in law, words make a huge difference on anything that could be challenged, or I'm not saying this would, but words are important to standing orders. It's a legal document.
Is this resolved by making the opportunity available if the matter under review is in the ward? Which it doesn't say at the moment.
It says in their role as board members.
It does.
Yeah.
But shall we give them the opportunity to provide representations on agenda items relating to that ward? Does that help?
I'll leave that to say what it is.
I think it would help if it said Oakham Town councillors and Rutland County councillors. I think that would be the helpful thing, if we could have an amendment to insert the word Oakham Town councillors. And then everyone's being treated equally.
Is it a working group on that?
We spent a long time over this, and we spent a long time
I know
with
we did.
each item.
I know we did, but doesn't mean to say we're always right.
No,
But let's look at the proposal which is before us. Is it possible? Do we accept it or not?
Sorry, do you mean
I think proposal.
town councillors of the ward? Again, if this is trying to grapple with something in a particular ward.
Yeah, and I'm not asking for any of the other words. I'm not asking for any other of the wording to be changed. All I'm saying is that it should be applicable to Oakham Town councillors and Rutland County councillors. so that even if you just inserted it, given priority or whatever you want to put it after Rutland Town Council, it's very specific there in their role as Oakham ward members. So it's not I don't see it as a problem. It just makes it seem fair.
Okay. Does anybody else have any other views on that? Or on any other points on the standing order?
Could I make a proposal?
Yeah, just any other views first.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay. Okay, do you want to make a proposal then, Councillor Brooks?
So if that's, I'd like to make a proposal that the word or the description Oakham Town Councillor is added before, is it Oakham Town Councillors and Rutland Town Councillors? So that's the amendment at the beginning of 36B.
Do you have a second for that proposal? Okay. All those in favour of that proposal, please?
Well, you did the language for the meeting.
Okay, so that's on 36B, we've accepted that. Now, what about, I don't think there's any more comments on the remainder of the standing orders. I didn't see any point raising that hand. If that's the point, then can I take the remaining changes in standing orders other than what we've just voted on 36B? Does anybody wish to propose acceptance of standing orders as amended?
I would propose that.
Second? All those in favour of accepting the remaining standing orders? Unanimously. Okay.
I'm voting against because I don't agree with the one part. If it was done in separate.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't know.
No, if you don't agree with it, but it's only because I don't agree with the one part.
No, okay.
And I'm not going to agree with everything you tell me to agree with.
All right.
It's just annoying.
Just a minute. No cross-table chat, right?
Sorry.
And anything you want to say comes through me, and I want to indicate you want to speak by holding your hand up. Right.
Just for clarification, on 17B, you raised the question whether it's duplication. That clause is in the changed version 16B.
It's already in there.
Yes.
So it's a duplication.
Yes.
Okay,
Just to clarify that.
Okay, that's the question. 17B is a duplication. That's already in. It's already in standing orders.
My vote can't change.
17D. Okay. On to next item, which is budget 2016-17. There was a clerk.
Yes, just, I mean, if anybody's got any queries really, I mean, obviously there are 5 changes that the finance working group have to make. The first 2 as a result of the council remaining in its current premises. The second one is provisional, depending on decisions that you're going to be making, or provisional decisions you're going to be making in a moment. Sorry, they're the next 2. And the fifth one, on the neighbourhood plan, had a presentation from a councillor from another authority, another town council that's been through this process, and the original figures that were put forward were way out. So that's been reduced substantially. There is considerable grant funding around as well. So they're the 5 changes that you've got in version 2, and really tonight I think probably with Adam as a sort of lead on promotions working group to perhaps go through what you're...
Yep, well done. Yeah, the first point I'd make on that is the promotion publicity working group has said that the Oakham Town Partnership late night shopping provision of £1,000, we've taken it out of our budget. So if the financial working group don't pick that up, that'll be a watch out for next year, because we're not budgeting for that, so that means the main council has to budget for it. But I think it's pretty self-explanatory. Those of you that have read through the our draft budget, which starts with the page 2 where it says Rutland Show, band concerts, cuts close. You'll see on the 27th of October we sort of refined down after a couple of first thoughts, and in the 1st of October meeting They arrived at those figures there in the far right-hand column with a total amount of £9,200. And it's a case of whether anybody wants to challenge that, I guess. If they want me to try and justify it, I will do that, but that's it. I haven't got what else to say. I have previously sent minutes round on what we've been doing, so people should be more than aware of where we've arrived at this.
Well, don't forget this is just provisional figures. Final figures will be so you still have time to amend them at a later stage. Any questions at all?
Comment. I'm just shocked. I'm not discrediting the work that's been done by the finance group on this, but we're just constantly putting our administration costs up and up and up. I just picked out a few here. I assume that this includes the pension contribution, but we're talking about an increase of 21.5% on salaries. Postage and stationery increase 107.171%. On postage and stationery increase, over 100% increase.
Same as last year.
Yeah, it's on here, it's on my sheet, there's 100% increase.
I'd just like to question that actually, Martin. How do you arrive at that figure?
Because I've looked at this budget sheet that we put in and worked out the percentage of what we spent this year
Have you
and what
looked
we're
at the right
spending.
column? Have you looked at the right column?
What column are you looking
You
at?
should be looking at an estimate for 2015.
I'm going to find it. Yeah, I can see the estimate is 2,600,
Yep.
and we've actually, the situation is 1,255.
Yeah, but halfway through the
Halfway
year.
through the year.
We're further halfway through the year.
No, well, the situation was at the 30th of
But it's
September.
still a big increase. But I accept if I've made a mistake on
It's exactly
on
the
that
same as
front. But
last
it's
year.
It is the same. If you're halfway through the year, you should only have half the expenditure.
okay. If I've made a mistake, I've
The
got
budget figure for last year for postage and stationery was £2,600. The proposed figure for 2016-17 is exactly the same.
Okay. There's a lot to try and take in, and I apologise for raising that and being a mistake.
Okay.
Okay. The cemetery one, £15,000 maintenance. Where did that figure come from? Because I find that curious, as we haven't taken it on yet and we haven't tendered for anything. Can do.
Do we have
But all that is that we had some indicative figures that came through from the Rutland County Council on what it would be to run the cemetery. The Town Council has provisionally agreed to look at taking over the cemetery, and the decision date would be effective from April the 1st. That's not a definite, but that is the initial date that we set up. To be in a position where we could afford to do it, we have to make sure we budget for it. So we've looked at what it costs to run the cemetery, we look at what we currently put in, and then the finance working group came with a figure based on those figures that we'd have to make a provision of £15,000. When we actually get income from the cemetery,
Which is not in the budget.
which is not in there, because that's not defined as such, it would actually probably be considerably less. But the thing is, we have to make a provision, and the provision was £15,000 based on the figures of Rutland Cemetery, and with a poor income. So it was justified. Thank you.
And the last one before a very last comment, the skate park, is this an overlap from when, because we paid 48,000, but this shows the current situation is 32,500, and these figures, if they're wrong, could make a bit of a difference.
No, the figure there is split between two. Okay, you've got 32,500, which is the grant that we received.
Right.
If you go down to agreed capital projects, it's 7,500.
So it is showing somewhere.
So the council agreeing with its own money.
Capital projects rather than skate park.
Yeah, so the actual, that's how it was in the 2015-16 budget.
But my last comment is that it is quite disappointing, and I'm sure I've done this sum right, that we're asking for an increase in our budget of 8%, which seems quite steep.
Just to answer your...
The general thing, because what concerns me, and I won't touch on it too much, is that we have a page in in the council tax booklet, because our administration of this council is somewhere between 81-82% of our income, which I think is appalling. And we're now asking for another 8% on this. I know it's a draft, but that's taking us nearly up to rough figures of nearly 90% of our income is just based on administrating this council. To me, that's appalling.
No, I think you'd have to give us those figures.
I don't understand how you have come to that figure.
Well, you do, because it's in the council tax booklet every year, and it says that the administration cost, I think it's 81%. And when we're talking about this is not projects, this is just basic budgeting to run the council. And this increase here, when I take the total of what we've had this year and what you want for next year, is an 8% increase. And we shouldn't be looking to keep increasing it. Last year, we sat in here, I was a member of the public, and the mayor did an increase last year. And she said, well, we're just going to have an increase because we might need it. We can't keep taking from the public without justification.
If you're going to make comments like that, then you've got to supply the figures for us to look at to see how you get that.
Yeah, well, I did a calculation.
Yeah, but you need to let us have...
There's 8% increase.
Yes, not
that's a simple
We're
thing.
talking about something like 90% of...
Well, that's what in my head I'm thinking,
Yeah,
that when you add that to 81%, because none of those are for projects or anything, they're all running costs, so that will go to the... Well, I don't claim to be an expert.
No, I'm not saying
you know,
what I'm saying
but
is,
it concerns
if
me
you're
that
going to
on
make-
paper the final figure is that we're going to be asking for 8% more money.
If you're going to make comments like that, then we need to see the figures on which we rely on for that evidence.
But
Because to say 90% means absolutely nothing, because we can't see where you've got those figures from. We need to see your figures on it.
well, it's all here,
Not now.
isn't it?
If you
It's all
understand.
there that we're asking
Yeah,
for
but-
8% extra
I'm not
money.
talking about the 8%, I'm talking about the
Well, I am,
90%.
because I think that's unacceptable to be producing a budget
Right.
that's not achieving anything apart from just running this council.
You'll have the opportunity at future events to
No,
say
this
how
is
to
what
do
we
that.
this is what we're
Yeah.
supposed to do tonight, to make the comments
Yeah.
to the working group, so that because when it comes to council, the budget, when it's due, well, that's finalised. You can't turn around and say we object to it. So that is the purpose of standing up now
Yeah.
and saying I object to a budget that's going to ask for an 8% increase. Forget what I've said about the admin costs and that, because I might be a percentage out or something. I'm not a mathematician.
Okay, but yeah, all we're saying is that we just need to see what the figures you're relying on. You're talking about salaries, etc., 21% increase.
Yeah, that seems
You
quite
recall,
high.
well, you recall that we now have to admit the two officers into the pension scheme,
Mhm.
and we've already said that the pension scheme will increase with the employer's contribution of 23%. So that's where that comes from, the majority of that comes from. There's also an annual increase, a small annual increase in pay, which is included in that. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other points on this? No? I'll use nothing.
Yeah.
Okay, this is just...
Are there any other questions on this?
Yeah, there's no, any other questions on this part of the budget?
Apart from me highlighting that thing on the late night shopping,
Yeah.
I just, as long as you pick that up.
Are you happy with the figures that...
Yeah. Okay, well, do you...
Yep.
I mean, are we noting it or are we voting? Because
No,
we vote,
we
can't
don't.
vote on it because it's not finalised.
Okay.
So, all we're doing then is noting. We're noting the figures
And the comments.
and the comments. Okay?
Thank you, Les. Thank you to the finance
Yes,
working group.
thank you.
Okay.
If there's any left.
And now we come to the suspension of Standing Order 12. Hopefully for the last time. The agreed to suspend Standing Order 12 in order that item 11 on the agenda can be considered. That's the appointing of members to the working group. We note that the working groups have changed in the last 6 months, and this is just to appoint new members if we consider working groups.
I propose we suspend the funding order.
Seconded.
This is the last one.
All in favour?
Martin.
All in favour is unanimous. Okay, the first one is the finance working group, which now currently has 2 members plus the clerk. Obviously, Councillor Mills has now resigned, so he leaves that group. That leaves Councillor Haley, Councillor Elliott, and the clerk in that working group. Do you need any more in that working group? Is the question I asked.
Obviously, we haven't had a chance to think about that before you've announced this evening.
I realise that, yes.
And so it would be best for us to have a word about that first.
Can we defer that?
We can defer that to the next meeting, if you wish. Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say that I don't believe that they need another person, but one of the important roles that they do need, if they want to consider having someone just for that role, is that we no longer have anybody who's doing the bank reconciliation. And as I have issues with passports and driving licences, I'd quite like to come on to the group to do the bank reconciliations because I'm not a signature, and that was the problem that Mr Mills was highlighting.
You're talking of the finance working group?
Yeah, because it was part of the finance work group, so it would be just purely for that role under their instruction. We've shown them what to do. That's what I'm offering.
I don't know whether you can just take someone on for a certain role, can you? I mean, I would have thought it's participating in the group as a whole. Am I wrong?
Why don't we go with that proposal to defer, and then they can discuss that as part of Martin's
Yeah.
suggestion there, can be one of the things they discuss.
Yeah.
Good with it.
Is that okay?
I mean, as long as
Can I have a proposal to defer that?
Yeah.
I think proposed by Martin.
Right. Seconded. Councillor Brooks, all those in favour?
Yep.
Thank you. Okay, item 11.1 is deferred to the next meeting. Promotions working group. Currently 4 members, that is Adam Joyce, Jasmine and Vince. Rebecca Hearn has recently resigned and therefore leaves the group. Do you need any more than 4 in that group? Is the first question.
I'd say no.
Probably not. It seems to be trying to get people onto the council rather than getting into working group system. So probably not.
It's not really staying on the council, is it?
That's what I mean, yeah. No, I would propose that for the time being we leave it as is until we get no humans on the council chair.
Okay. Have a second for that. Francis, that's all those in favour? No,
Thank you.
Fitness Centre Working Group, which is currently 1 member. I would think a good working group with 1 member works better than anything else.
Who's on that mic?
That's Michael Hayner, yes.
Do you want to have a meeting with yourself?
I've been limited.
Possibly slightly less than you require. What's your view, then, as you are the working group?
It would be nice to have some help.
Okay, do we have any proposals then for?
I have a comment.
Sorry, you've got a comment first.
Yeah. I don't know what now the terms of reference are of the, if you're calling it now the fitness working group, which I think has been dropped. I wondered whether, because the council hasn't decided what it's actually doing with the premises, whether this group should be disbanded, a new group reformed with proper terms, not that they didn't have proper terms of reference before, but with proper terms and reference to know, yes, we had rather oddly named it a community centre, but we've not made that decision. I'm hoping that it will remain as that, but nobody actually really knows where we're going forward with it. So if we could, and if it could be agreed that this is deferred, so that a new group could be set up, so that we know what we're doing. Because I'd quite happily go on the group, whatever it decides. My benefit is it's got to benefit the council, whatever it happens to it. But I would go on the group, and I wouldn't even have a clue what you want doing with it at the moment, and that's my problem.
Councillor Hayes, would you like to let Councillor Brooks know what you do?
Yeah, currently we know that the council has voted not to move there. We're now looking at other uses for the building, and we will produce a business plan to put forward to council to consider and then vote on. And that is currently active. So we're looking at the costs to run the building as far as we can at this stage, and we're going to test those figures. We are in communication with other parties that may wish to occupy part of the whole of the building, and we're looking at community use and costs for the council or for the community in relation to that. So in due course, we will produce reports with recommendations to the council.
We'll just do it. A lot of work.
I don't anticipate being entirely, but because I'm still on the group has continued. And so there's a continuation of work with a change of direction because the council voted not to occupy part of the building as the council officers and council chamber.
But then do you not see my point that you come to an end of something, and yes, previously you were given instructions as a group, not you, to go and find alternative uses. That was just chucked in at the last minute, and that was ignored. So the group hasn't, as far as I know, what's been reported back to council, done all that it was asked to do at that stage. So that's why I think it needs now clear, defined instructions from all the council. People change their minds what they want to do with things. I just feel that if you carry on in the way that it was, you know, it's nearly a year has been spent, and we've come to the decision we're not having it for ourselves.
Okay,
So
I get the gist of what you're trying to say.
yeah,
When we restructured the working groups 2 or 3 months ago,
that was to get me off that working group. Yes.
that was your view. We did say at the time that the working group would be, as Councillor Haley was saying, to look at, if the council did not move there, to look at who could release the centre, how it could be done, what the implications were, what the costs of doing it. So it still has a valid remit. So
I would challenge that, because if you look at the rules, it says a group can't be 1 or 2 people. So I don't think I didn't want everybody. Well, it's just
which rules are you quoting?
I can't remember, but we were quite specifically
If
told
you quote the rules, then
a group can't be 1 or 2 people.
Okay, Michael.
I was just going to say the plan as outlined by Councillor Haley seems to me to be clear. If objectively, despite the disappointment that some people felt about the change of direction, the proposition to put forward an objective business plan which takes account of all the options seems to me to be the best move forward, and if that's underway, that is a clear direction for it to be going in.
Okay, well, we're not going to go down the route of dissolving the working group. We've just got it set up. It's starting to work quite effectively. What we're looking for this evening, aren't you? What we're looking for this evening is whether we need more members on it, and if we do, how many, and if there are a number that we need, then we need to be able to vote them on this evening. Councillor Haley, anything you want to wish to add?
Yes, I think we need at least another 2 members.
You want a group of 3?
At least 3.
There are proposals to the working group. You would like to? Okay. You're proposing? Any second for Councillor Hopkins? All in favour of Councillor Hopkins?
Vote is on.
Okay, unanimous. Thank you. Any others?
I'd like to go on.
You're proposing yourself?
Well, I prefer if someone else proposed.
Okay. Okay, you're raising the issue, so you're proposing. Anyone second Councillor Brooks?
I'll second Councillor Brooks.
Okay. All those in favour of Councillor Brooks, join the working group?
Are you not going to vote yourself?
Well, no, it's pointless, isn't it? And I support it.
I'll vote for
I just get
Councillor
fed up with it. You did that
Okay.
to me, and then you
One for,
apologised.
all those
I
against?
can't hear,
Can you,
sorry.
Councillor Brooks? I've told you numerous times at meetings.
No, but it's upsetting to me. I
Well,
want to
you've got to
contribute to
control
this council, and the whole time you tell people, don't talk to him. Vince is away tonight doing
Councillor
that,
Brooks.
and the first thing he says, I am getting crap because they're telling me off for talking to you. It's got to stop.
Control yourself. I've told you time and time again, if you want to speak, you raise your
No,
hand.
it's got to
You do
stop.
not,
It's
you do
absolute
not shout
nonsense.
out like this or shout across the table. It's not helping.
And I don't want an email from you, Jasmine, saying, sorry, I didn't support you again, because I don't believe a word of it.
Okay.
Anyway, so vote for.
One for, all those against? No.
Oh, sorry.
Against Councillor Brooks.
Well,
It's not on.
have we only had one vote?
Yeah, vote
Oh,
Yeah.
he hasn't.
No, he didn't vote for
Oh,
it.
No, because they don't want me on it. They voted against it. It's ridiculous.
Can I have all those against again, please?
That's why people go.
Abstentions? 1, 2.
Or Mike must be abstaining as well.
You must be abstaining, not voting. 3 then. Okay. Okay, thank you very much.
So who's going to be the first person they need?
Anybody else?
Somebody who doesn't want to do it. Adam, you're good at doing
Can you
that.
control yourself, please?
Can I ask to defer the third person until we get the
Can do.
new councillors?
I would propose Councillor Howard.
In his absence.
He's absent. Is he
Does he know?
aware of this proposal?
Yes.
Oh, I see.
Oh, I'll second that, if that's,
Yeah, all right, fine.
Okay. All those in favour of Councillor Howard?
Yeah.
All those against? Abstentions? Two abstentions. Thank you very much.
That's if he's going to come back. The way people are speaking, they're doing the same as what they do to Adam. 1 minute he doesn't talk, and the next minute. No, it needs to be aired so people know what's going on.
There it is the proper way. Okay, not
There is no proper way.
Well, there is, if you abide by the rules. Okay, grant applications. Okay, we've got 3 applications for granting this evening. The first one is an open angling society.
Exclusion, all the time. I try my hardest, to do things properly, and all you do is exclude.
Okay, well, Oakham Angling Society. Do you have any comments about the grant for Oakham Angling Society? Yes.
Yes, I won't be voting for this because I think it's appalling that we're being asked to put fish in a canal that is basically full of weed, and that's possibly why they were half gasping for air, although I was told by a fishing expert that that's what trout, I think it was trout or carp do, but I don't see how this benefits the residents of Oakham fishing. It's a private club, it's not a charity, and we shouldn't be giving money to a private club. If they come and say we can do a project like they did with the boys' school, which unfortunately was vandalised, then I support that.
Okay.
But I'm not going to support taxpayers' money being used, which is basically
you're
for
against this.
fish. Yes, we shouldn't be
Okay,
paying for
comments?
fish.
Any other comments on this?
I think it's ridiculous that these come through
I
from
mean-
the office.
They're proposing or requesting, if I remember, £1,000. They're requesting £1,000. Are there any comments on that? Councillor Elliott.
Well, part 2 of the description of your idea does include other things other than providing fish.
It's very vague.
That's the first thing to say. Maintenance, canal bank improvement, other wildlife. They seek to say that car parking for other uses of the canal, including dog walkers, ramblers, road anglers.
Okay.
There is separately a movement to improve the canal as part of this, and I've been made aware of that, and it would be good to reread those proposals in relation to this application.
So are you saying you'd like more time to consider it?
Yes.
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 Okay. Any other views? Any views that would like more time to consider this application?
Yeah, I agree.
Stanley, do you want to sit down?
No,
Okay.
I'm not in England.
I didn't say well, I don't want to sit down.
Exercise doesn't improve. I'm prepared to accept what I agree with what Michael said. And I don't want to vote for it or against it at the moment. I'd like perhaps a little bit more information, but time to really consider it in more depth.
Okay. So you're recommending this vote?
Yes.
Okay. Any other points anyone wants to raise on this application? Any proposals? Did you wish to make a proposal?
Yes, I propose that we defer the matter perhaps until the next meeting.
Okay. You have a seconder for that? All those in favour of deferring this item? All those against? Abstentions? Two abstentions. Okay. So that item is deferred to the next meeting. Second one is from Round Rutland, who are applying for £300. Appears to be a tea party for residents. Christmas celebration, I really want a chance to sing along. Let's sing one of Christmas carols of Rutland's rejuvenating choir. Be given tea and cakes and a small seasonal gift to go home with. Any comments about this?
I've looked at this and considered it, I have to say, and I think that what I would propose, and I'd like to see, is that we offer them the full amount, £400 that they've got, and extend it by £100 from what they've asked for, because I think it's a worthy cause.
Okay. So your views are it should be extended to 400 or 500 pounds?
400.
400 pounds, okay. Under Brooks?
I don't object to the thing. I wouldn't want anyone to think I'm screwed. But the rules say we can't pay for expenses, so I would like to see the £30 expenses acquired removed, and we also can't buy gifts. And so, I don't like the idea of the council just throwing out £100 extra. The people know what they've asked for. I'm slightly frustrated, like so many of these applications where it says, have you been anywhere else for funding, sponsorship or whatever? The answer is no.
Okay.
I have no objection to it if they are genuinely going to get 60 people to give them that, but I would say that it should be reduced by £90 because we can't give gifts or acquire expenses. The rest is for the full benefit of the community. Sorry.
Well, I think just to make perhaps Anuraki's point, 60 elderly residents will be invited. If only 5 turn up, then £500 would be £100 each. Now, obviously, it's not clear whether they will. If they all come, then one proposition, it's easy to support the extra funds.
I think it's come back for it.
So are you making a proposal on that?
No, just a comment.
Comment. Okay, good.
Just an observation really. I don't agree with adding another £100 on this. They've asked for £400, but most of this is a duplication of what Oakham School does, they tell me. Because they do a similar sort of thing. But I'm sorry, food, napkins, etc. Just seems an awful lot of money when it's a duplication.
Okay. So are you making a proposal on this or not?
No, I'm just giving you an observation.
This is good, okay.
The only proposal I would give is not to give the £100 extra for a start.
Right, okay.
But I don't know what else.
Any other comments? No? Okay, well, you've got before you a request for £300. Anybody want to make proposals on that?
Oh, £300, sorry, that's all I
If you oppose £300, that was seconded for that. I'm sorry, motion for. Anybody else want to make a proposal?
I would like to give it a try that we give them the 200 and now my maths, because I'm in a bad mood, £210. Now, they could be given as estimates there, Chairman, because this council budget, we had it recently where we were throwing 3 figures as estimates, £500 advertising, £500 printing, £500 consultancy, and nobody would tell me who the company was or what was going on. So these figures, I guess, somebody has sat down and thought that might be what it's going to cost us. Because I doubt, actually, that they will get Victoria Hall for £100. I don't know what they put on their website, unless they've got a deal. But that is my proposal, that we give the £210, because I don't mind duplication. I think we should be seen as if there's some publicity to say that this event's been sponsored, as we've tried to put across the board by Oakham Town Council. 60 residents, if they do go for an afternoon tea, what does it matter if it's once or twice? Hopefully when I'm old I'll be invited to things like that, and why should we just be rationed to one? That's the way I look at it.
Let's see you planning for the future.
Yeah, I'm 50 next year, feeling old.
What?
Well, I've deducted the gifts and the choir expenses, because we can't pay expenses or gifts.
Where's that?
Well, it's the local government act, which I'm told the Empowerment Act allows us to break every single law, but we won't go into that. Yeah, it doesn't do that, but that's what I was told, that laws are there for the purpose, and we can't use the precept for expenses or gifts to individuals.
You can now, but
No, you can't just write out a law. You could say that a person could murder someone. That doesn't give you the right, if the law says you can't murder someone because we have general powers of empowerment, that we can ignore that law.
I'm not considering bringing anybody at the moment.
No, I'm just using that as an extreme example, but the Empowerment Act does not allow you to ignore the law.
Okay.
Otherwise, you would have just a free-for-all.
Can I ask to resolve this, that we ask Martin?
I put a proposal to
Can I speak without being
interrupted?
interrupted, please? Do I interrupt you?
No, you make funny faces and noises.
Can we stop this bantering? A child would stop it.
That's what we're talking about,
Look,
Jesus.
we're supposed to be a professional body here, it's not bantering across the table.
Can I ask Councillor Brooks to produce evidence of the statements that he's making about that?
Well, I'm happy that those statements are
It's the
correct.
1974 Local Government Act. It's
Can
as
we,
simple as that. And
we
you're
stop?
saying that the Empowerment Act means that this
I'm
council...
out of
order, Chairman.
You're saying that this council has to ignore...
Out of order, Chairman.
It can't be true.
Okay. Perhaps you want to look at the general power of competence and then come back next time.
And it says use it with caution.
Well, we are.
You're not. You're just using it to say we can do anything, and that is wrong.
Can I propose that we round it down to £200 for this?
My proposal on the table is £210.
What a ridiculous.
Okay. Proposal £210, so we have a second for that.
Yes.
You do. Okay. All those in favour? I'll do that.
I can't believe that no one wants to support the Christmas event without community.
All those abstaining?
I'm saying.
Okay, £210.
Did that go through?
It is.
Right, thank you. Wasn't clear.
All you've got to do is concentrate rather than keep talking.
Yeah, well, I've got to adopt it, didn't I?
Right, next one is from First Contact Rutland. They're applying for £110 for their project. I'm not sure exactly what it is at the moment.
10 key safes.
Oh, 10 key safes, that's right, that's what it is. Suppose it's 10 key safes, which is something you've already acknowledged.
Yes, I'm abstaining from this. If it suits the council, I can comment and fill in any holes in the understanding of it.
Okay. Okay, I'd like to ask you to fill in the hole.
The reason I've abstained is because I work as a volunteer for what used to be Rutland Community Spirit, and now they've got under this new name because they've rebadged as the years have gone on. The key safes are when they get referrals from social services, from either the county council or from other agencies, and it's where people are either ill or infirm, and they need to have a key safe put on their home. Many years ago, when I first joined this organisation, the local authorities provided the key safes for free, and in actual fact, I used to fit them for Rutland Community Spirit. And what it is that one thing I identified, and I brought this to the attention of around Rutland here, is that some of the people that we're fitting them for actually were quite hard up as well and couldn't afford them. So the reason I declared is that I'm the person that contributed 10 key safes to this organisation for free for people around Rutland. And it was actually my suggestion, I'll be very open and honest about this, to around Rutland, that if they approach the town council, they may want to support this organisation by ensuring that the people of Oakham would have access to free key safes. If the town council refuses it, it's fine, because the key safes which we've got available for the residents of the whole of the county will still be offered up on a first come, first served basis from referrals only, so it's not a free-for-all. The reason why coming to the town council asking for 10 is that these 10 key safes would purely be for Oakham residents. And since the donation of 10 that I've made to this organisation, which has only been in the last 4 months, I've fitted 3 of those key safes already, 2 of them to Oakham residents. So it enables the people that are vulnerable and that haven't got a lot of funds to have key safes fitted for free. All the work that I do not charge for because I'm a volunteer. And when they used to pay me my expenses, but I knocked that on the head this year as well. Because I said that it was inappropriate because these people just cannot afford it. And that's what it is, Ken.
Thank you. Any questions? Any comments? Any comments? Yes, I would propose.
I propose that we accept.
£110. Second?
Yeah.
Bruce? All those in favour?
I understand that.
Okay. Against? Abstention?
I'm against, sorry.
You're against, okay. And 1 abstention. One
I'm not
against.
sure that's what the
Well,
grass
I'm
is
noting.
for.
One noting.
Noting.
Okay, on to photocopier. So back to the clerk again.
Yeah, really, if there's anybody, first, actually, before I even start, there is, on the new quotations, halfway down the page, that last column that says quarterly expenditure is actually wrong. That is actually the annual expenditure, okay? It's not quarterly, so it's not going to be over £2,000 a year. That is the annual expenditure for the 3 companies that Alison has been in touch with. You've got Alison's recommendations there, that we have a good relationship with Danwood, who supply our current equipment. We've always found them to be extremely helpful, extremely prompt when we've needed them to be. And Alison's recommendation is that we, order the council, gets a new copier which will scan at high speed. We'll do up to A3 colour copies if required. The reasons for the reduction is the considerable reduction in copier costs, and also the slight reduction of about £100 a year in the lease charge. So, if anyone's got any more questions, and it's a Coisera 255CI. Use a copy.
I've got an observation, born out asking about this the capital cost of this machine, which amazed me, is apparently £2,000 something, £2,000, just a bit over £2,000, which is pretty much in line with their quarterly charge. I thought a copy of that explanation would be much more between £5,000 or £10,000, but it appears not.
Sorry, are you making the point?
I'm just making the point that the capital cost of this machine, if you look it up, is 2,000 something.
Yeah, okay. And the annual expenditure we're looking at is £565.
Which is half the annual expenditure at the moment. If my reading of this is correct. That,
Okay. Okay. Any more comments?
Just reading that, so the recommendation there, which is that top box, downwards, total for year 1014.
That's what we're currently paying.
Thank you. And the new one would be how much?
565.
Per year? So we get a full photocopy of the A3 for half price.
About present.
Right, yeah, I mean, we haven't included colour copies in that because we're not sure how many we may do. Obviously, if the council requires hundreds and hundreds of colour copies, then they're going to be charged at 3.8p a sheet. Okay, so, well, even 100 copies is only £3.80, so it's not exactly a huge amount of money. But you can see we're currently paying nearly 2p a sheet for a black and white copy, and the new charge is 0.39p. So it's about a fifth of the black and white copies of what we're paying currently. Okay? So that's why there's such a significant reduction, because council, as you can see from the packs that you've got, are about 5,500 mono copies a quarter. It's a lot of copies that go through the copy machine. But it doesn't include colour copies because we don't know how many colour copies will be required. It may be that there'll be very few, but we might as well have a colour compatible one.
That's the Brooks.
Are these quotes for these other companies all based on the same machine?
Not on the same machine, but the same, just the same thing.
So how can we judge it on what that quarterly expenditure basically?
Because we have asked for an A3 compatible colour copier, okay, that also scans and is net workable, okay? Alison has approached those three companies with those requirements, and that is what they have come back with. It's not the same machine for all three companies. You know, perhaps other companies have other agreements with other manufacturers. Okay?
But I would like to know a bit more about the three other machines, because we don't particularly know too much about the first one. And to me, this seems a typical way, well, we use that company, we'll stick with them. And it seems to come out with the cheapest. And I don't think this is a very...
I think you might be the first one to complain if we started going to the dearest.
No, I just don't. Well, we've been told that figure doesn't include colour copying. This
It
figure
doesn't,
What
so
are
like for like
What are
comparison.
those figures based on?
Like for like
It
comparison.
doesn't tell me what those
Those
figures
figures are
are based
based on 5,500 mono copies a quarter, which is what we currently do.
on. Right.
Okay? That's what the figures are based on. So currently, with our current machine, on 5,500 copies, black and white copies a quarter, it's costing currently about just over £1,000 a year.
I think it
With
would
the
be,
new machines from any of those three companies, it's significantly cheaper.
I think it would have been appropriate to get a quote based on that machine, whatever it is, from three companies, so they're on the same level playing field.
What you do is go to the company and see what they recommend. And if they recommend
But they're
something,
going to automatically recommend, this is sales,
Yeah.
this whole
So
thing
we've got the
is a 5-year contract, and it's based on selling to you. And I think that we should tell them that we want that, and we want to basically go to other companies
you're
and
looking
get
for
the
a
quote
project
for
to
the
decide
same
which is the
machine.
best machine.
But we don't know ourselves
No, we
which is
don't.
the best.
No, what we're doing is
So
it's being recommended.
who chose that machine for that company? And then we don't know what the other companies, that machine could be a piece of junk. for
Well,
all
it
we
does,
know.
it goes back, doesn't it?
Well, no, if we signed a
On the
5-year
lease, no.
contract,
If you have a lease, then it's no good, it goes
I
back.
just feel that it's not been done properly, I'm sorry. It needs,
Okay.
it
That's
needs
right.
a like-for-like quote.
Richard, are you satisfied with the specifications of the three machines?
The three machines that all three companies were given exactly the same spec. This is what we want.
Thank you.
A3, colour compatible, scanner. Those are the quotes that have come back. I'm not quite sure what else we are supposed to do.
No.
I can go to Wilco and spend 45 quid.
All right, you've had your say, now let somebody else have a say.
The quickest way to deal with this isn't it, to ask downwards to quote what their bids would be for whatever machine and the data are using and Walters and the same the other way around. What would Data and Walters quote for a Coisera 2551?
Sorry, I gave the wrong machine number, but we
Okay,
need a quote.
have
I agree with
you
that.
indicated you want to speak?
Sorry.
You then have the level playing field that council.
Okay, right. Anybody else have comments?
I just wanted to clarify that, so the lease charge is £480 a year, and based on 5,500 sheets of mono, it's 565.80 a year.
No.
Okay.
No, that's the total. The total cost for 5,500 sheets, because the cost is 0.39 of a pence.
Yeah.
So
It's got per quarter.
that's annual. It should be annual.
Annual.
That's what I just said right at
Okay.
the very beginning. That last column should say total annual expenditure.
Okay. There's enough ambiguity around this document, which has got enough errors on it that I would ask that this is deferred, so it can be brought back to the council accurate. Thank you.
Is that the proposal?
Yes.
Okay, any other comments before I ask for a second?
I would second
Can
that.
I ask for a second, please? Councillor Brooks. All those in favour of deferring this for a further report? those against? 2. 5.
Abstentions.
2. Right, can I just have the
Fours or abstentions?
4s, please, again?
Sorry.
All of those voting for the proposal? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, sorry. 6 and 2 abstentions. Thank you.
Can I ask you-
It's over now.
I know, but we make, before you finish it, can we make that proposal that was supported,
I've
that we
finished
get
it.
a quote?
The vote has been
Yeah, but if this comes back in the
Vote
same
has
way,
been
it'll go
taken.
again. We
Move on to the next
needed-
item, which is the rail chain, believe it or not, which is what I'm wearing this evening.
We needed a like-for-like quote.
Okay. Okay, since this report was compiled, the situation has changed slightly, and when I was about to leave home on Sunday to go to Remembrance Service, the chain fell apart. And I had to do some very, very quick, hurried repairs, which I hope you haven't noticed. But it is now over 31 years old, this chain, and showing signs of wear. Anybody who's been there knows you have to pin it to your clothes. It is fairly heavy, and you might find that your clothes are tearing as well. So it's not a nice chain to wear, although it's a very handsome chain to wear. So because of the large numbers of nameplates, I suppose, it causes this chain to be quite heavy. There's 34, I think I counted up today, and the fog. And that, then, if we look at having another 4 on, it's going to get heavier and longer, unless they take things around the back and
Torn out.
yeah, broad shoulders. But what happens is that these links between the nameplates strain, and eventually they just fall out, and that's what happened the other day. There's been no work on this chain now for 4 years, so it's obviously if you don't maintain something, it probably wouldn't tend to keep up regular service. Recently this fob broke, and I had to get it repaired. It had to be lasered, believe it or not, and that was a charge of £110 just to get the fob repaired. The main reason it was lasered is that people who did it before had used lead on the back, and it's supposed to be purely silver soldered. So it wouldn't take, so it had to be lasered. What I'm suggesting to members, contrary to what the report said, is that we can now consider a replacement chain. Rather than continually mending and adding nameplates, because eventually, if you're going to have a nameplate every time, this chain is going to get considerably longer and heavier. And it increases the possibility of breaking. So that's fine. I've got some proposals for you in a minute. You want to speak, John?
I've been battling with this since 2001.
You should talk.
Yes. It's about time, if you look at the fob, it's not Oakham Town Council, is it?
District Council.
District Council. If you look at Stamford's chain, the S doesn't stand for Stamford, though I thought it did originally. But if you look at it, you can engrave about 3 mares on one S round. If we went for a new chain, for goodness sake, let's get on with it and save a bit of money. And I've forgotten where I went to for it, Richard. It began with the letter F.
Fattorini.
Fattorini.
In Birmingham.
I have done such a lot of research on this over the years.
Okay, another point. Okay, I think, oh sorry, let's see hand up.
Yes, I remember 4 years ago, because I was one of the people who complained, we don't have to mention names, but we changed jewellers because it was costing an arm and a leg to have the links paid, and this is about 25% of what it used to cost to be done. But I have heard chairmen over the years constantly complaining, and unfortunately for Mr. Lewis, he's probably been the victim of the most falling apart this year. Yes, the chain. I of the view that I remember at that meeting, Councillor Lucas actually did present a quote, which was very reasonable back then, and I don't believe that it's going to be much different of some new chain which could be engraved in numerous ways. And I don't know what Councillor Lewis is proposing, but I would like to see the chain put in a cabinet as part of Oakham Town Council's history in here, not sold or gone away, but some just practical change. Because I think that's what Oakham Town Council, you see, they don't have a thing that's wrapped around and heavy, and there's a risk somebody, if you went to a particular city or something, somebody might think £18,000, I think was the value of it. Nice bit of gold, you know.
I don't walk through Tesco's with it on.
No. No, so I would like to look at the opportunity that, going back to Councillor Lewis's thing, of and it was beginning with an F, trustee. I remember.
They do all the
Yes. Actually, if you look behind you, there's the rest of the chain that isn't on your chain.
Oh, that's it, is it?
Right.
I was going to say,
This one's
there's
got that
about
was.
something in the region of 12 years or so, which is not every
Funnily enough, I was at a reception when I was wearing that. I'm not going to say which town, but they suggested that when we went over to the reception, that we covered up the chain because there were thugs about my face.
Yeah, you don't walk down the streets and there's a down all the time. I know that. Anyway,
Can
I
we
think
research
there's
it?
two options anyway I think you've got. First one is just to replace the 4 nameplates which we've got on there, to just complete it. They cost £200 each. And then obtain quotes for a replacement. And the other option, I think, is that what's in the report, and you produce a cast of £295, but then you can run nameplates off at £120 a time, rather than 200. But both options come out about the same, for roughly £800.
I would suggest, Chairman, that we call an end to having any additional names put on this chain. And I think that the council should move to seek an alternative chain design or regalia design, even though it would be nice to have our names on the chain. Perhaps it's only a vanity thing, and for the sake of saving the council and the public purse a bit of money, I think put them in future costs as well, a bit more falling about again and damaged suits. We should move to look at alternative regalia.
Yeah.
Okay. I've done a very quick estimate today of starting at £2,000 for a chain.
They're not very good.
No. But that would be a much lighter design than this.
Yes.
Sit on a velvet band.
Yes.
But 2,000 would be the absolute minimum.
On a
You would
decent
expect.
fob.
Well, I mean,
On a decent fob.
well, whatever the top's going to be. So, can I have a proposal?
Just make another suggestion then, while we're at it, why can't we have a proper one for the deputy mayor? I mean, not a necklace, is what I'm trying to say.
What have you got on there?
Nothing.
I don't know, it's
Fine.
embarrassing. Got bigger swimming medals at home.
Yeah.
I would caution against that because my hometown, the council was disbanded through basically a chairman spending money on regalia. Letchworth Gardens City Town Council. It's all on the internet, and people do see it as an unnecessary thing. So any additional would be unacceptable, I think.
Chairman, I don't think it's the mayor suggesting that it will be voted for by the whole council.
Oh, I'm waiting for somebody to...
I would propose, Chairman, that the council seek alternative regalia designs for the town council's regalia. And if that means the chairman, the deputy chairman, and the other chairman, there's 3 chains, isn't there?
Yes.
I think that if the council do it, and it might be cheaper to get it all done in one hit. And let's update the council regalia. That's the proposal.
Yeah.
I second that.
Second that. All those in favour? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yes. Against.
There is a block.
Okay.
Just spending money.
No further work on this plan, apart from trying to keep it going, until we get the new one.
And the mayor, keep mayor.
Yeah, keep me going.
I've got a silver now.
Right, next one is Living in Rutland Guide, the other appendix G. Any comments on this? Michael?
Sorry,
question.
Sorry, Michael, can I ask you to pick your paper up, because I can't hear what you're saying.
Beg your
Sorry.
pardon. My-
When you put, so that I can hear. Sorry, Chairman.
I just question the value of this in that particular guide. It's the Oakham County Council document that goes out with, if I'm remembering rightly, the rate demands. And it seems removed from Oakham Town Council.
Any other comments?
Chairman, on this occasion, I am finding myself having to totally agree with Councillor
Martin, that's yours.
Yes, this is the book that I was referring to earlier, and I would object to paying to any advertising in there, as we actually get a free advertising for our poor administration costs. It's about nearly a full page we get for free, so why pay them more money?
Okay, it's fourth right of you. I have to say fourth right after three. Fourth right of you then. Okay. Can I propose then, please?
I propose, on a serious note, I do recognise that the guide is not a bad guide, but I don't think it's quite right for Oakham Town Council. Whenever we've done this sort of thing before, we've always struggled to find something meaningful. And I think if an advert isn't meaningful or directed at something specific, then it doesn't achieve anything. So based on that reason, I would propose that we do not accept or we do not go down this route. But thank you very much for the clerk. Thank you. Bringing the papers to the table.
There's two decisions required. The first one is, so you've got the first one, those who advertise in the living in Rutland Guide.
No.
And you're saying your proposal is that we do not. Can I have a second of that? Councillor Brooks, I think, was first. Sorry, all those in favour?
Saying no.
Yeah, I'm saying
Unanimous. Okay. The next one is that the decision of the council authorises the clerk to inform the publisher of the guide it does not wish to advertise in the future.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is that something you want to do?
Well, I propose that we don't want to be contacted by them. If we do it, we contact them.
Yeah.
Okay, is that right? All those in, sorry, who's proposing that?
I propose that in future that we...
Joyce second. All those in favour, please?
Say no in the future.
Future. Against?
I just abstain.
Abstain. Okay.
There's so much people who can't tell them not to say that.
Okay, and, yes, next one is signature to the Cambridge Film Society. This is Councillor Brooks, who's unable to obtain copies of certain ID forms which you have to have for the society, so he's unable to stand in that guide. So,
Can I speak?
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you.
okay. Does anybody wish to be a signature for the Cambridge Film Society? Just rather limit them because it really needs to be someone who's done a signature to the current account. So that's anyone there was
I have an icon.
Councillor Hawkins, Councillor Haley, and Councillor Elliott.
I'm already a signature.
You're a signature. Councillor Lucas, sorry, I think we've done right. So there's only three we can really coerce into doing this.
Oh, look at me.
Right?
And they've got to have photo ID.
The other condition, you've got to have current photo.
You've got a passport or a photo ID.
Government.
Councillor Haley. I'll second someone's job. Seconded, all those in favour of Councillor Haley? I'm surprised that's come through, you know. Okay, the next one is internal movement of funds, which is a requirement, and this is the proposal is to acquire funds, particularly from the unspent amount in the chairman's last last year, and which is earmarked from the council, which is earmarked for council reserves, to a new budget heading neighbourhood plan to March 31st, 2016, which is the present financial year. Any comments?
Not a reasonable request.
Okay, is that okay? Can I have a proposal for that?
I propose that we
I'll second that.
Second, Joyce, all those in favour? All those against? Abstentions? Okay. Right, schedule of payments, Appendix H. Any questions on Appendix H? Yes, Councillor Brooks.
Some of my questions on item, is it 219, have been answered by emails from the office. I was told that we could pay £60 because of the Empowerment Act, which I dispute. But it's since come to light that a mistake has been made, and the £60 should have went to Rutland County College. It is suggested that we might ask Catmos College for some of the money back. I think that would be embarrassing, so I'm hoping that the council won't ask for any money back. But what I do find extraordinary about these awards, and I'm not against them, these were set up specifically that two people, because the council likes to make loopholes in laws, and they decided that two people was a group of people and wasn't an individual. But in this case, Catmos College quite kindly took the £60, put it into a pool and subsidised and gave the person, very well deserving person, £15 iTunes voucher. Now we didn't, as a council, obviously I wasn't on at that time, give £60, whether it was £30 which they should have got, to be shared on other awards. So I'm hoping we can get this sorted that it doesn't happen again. I would be embarrassed if the office were to write that. Maybe legally we have to ask for them difference back, but if we don't, I think that it could be put down that we contributed towards their cost. But I think the whole award system needs to be sorted so we don't get into these things where laws are being, in my view, bent to suit things, and we've got councillors who are contributing out of their own purse. That's their choice.
Are you going to put a proposal forward on that for a future meeting?
Yeah, I would like to, if it could come, I didn't know how we were going to do it, but because obviously Rutland County College is going to go, Rutland County College is going to go, we've got Harrington now, and I think the only way we can resolve it is that if we did sort out what the colleges actually wanted, and councillors, not publicly, but privately, if they felt they wanted to, we contributed to some prize that we gave them physically, so we don't get that situation where money is...
Item forward to the future meeting on that basis.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, it was just that, because the book
Anybody else?
programs were explained.
Thank you. Anybody else any points? Okay, can I propose to accept the payments? Councillor Henry, Councillor Phillips, all those in favour? Okay. One. Okay. Thank you for the accounts. Any questions? No questions? Okay, can I propose to accept the accounts, please? Councillor Elliott, Councillor Phillips, all those in favour? Yeah. Those against? One. Okay, thank you very much. Meeting terminates at 20:38.